Well, welcome to Focus Today, and well, our guest, I'm sure if you are a football fan, you have heard of his name. And if you're not a regular football fan, you probably have read about his story. And I am really honored to have with us today Lance Easley. He lives in the Central Coast of California, and he is a football official. He made a call during a very important game between the Green Bay Packers and the Seattle Seahawks, and but he has another life, and we do want to talk to him about that. But Lance, nice to have you with us, my friend.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Well, first of all, what are you doing now? What is your profession outside of as a referee?
I'm a banker. I've been doing that for about 5 or 6 years now, since about 2008, actually.
And how long were you a referee?
Close to 20 years.
Boy, that's a long time, and I don't know how many games you officiated, but probably quite a few, huh?
Yeah, thousands, probably. Probably a lot more in basketball because you can do that all the time. Football is more limited due to the physical contact.
Yeah. Well, listen, you're also very involved in your community, your church, and in the arts. Give us a little bit of a background there.
Well, I've been a born-again believer since 1985. I was in the I still am in the Screen Actors Guild. I was an actor in Hollywood, and I became saved in 1985, February 14th, and I left the film industry back then. Went on hiatus, and I decided just to see what would happen moving forward with my family. And my wife is really involved in the arts. I had taken a break from it, so we actually saw the Phantom of the Opera while we were back here in New York, where I'm calling you from right now. As far as my church, I'm involved with a small community church locally, and we are just a Bible-based church that studies the Word every Sunday.
Good. Good.
Other things like that.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, listen, you made a call during a game, and it changed your life, needless to say. Tell us about that call.
Well, it's that call itself. I always like to go back to the play, is that the play itself was really unique and different. The next morning when I woke up, I called the NFL office and I talked to my supervisor. Said, "When was the last time you saw that call?" And he was dead silent. He had never seen the play. I had never seen it. I talked to many coaches, many officials. They had never seen that play. So here I was on Monday Night Football in front of 18 million people, stuck with that play. And it didn't go the way that I had hoped it had gone, where the receiver or the defender would bat the ball out of bounds, which is what they're coached to do. Instead, they tried to possess it, and now I had these guys going to the ground, and I have a simultaneous possession play that I had to deal with. And most people just do not understand the rules of control, the rule of possession, and it's really spelled out in the NFL rule book. So fortunately, I understood those things. However, still people will disagree with my interpretation.
What happened to you when you made that call?
That night or afterwards?
Well, I guess both.
Well, then that night, really, after I made the call, I knew it would go to replay, and that it would get resolved through replay. Then we had to separate the players, deal with that. I went home. We went through our post game. We really kind of knew the gravity of that situation and where the negotiations were and the labor lockout, and it really hit all of us pretty hard. And I felt like, I was in the middle of it, and I didn't want to let anybody down. But then shortly afterwards, I started getting phone calls the next morning by the media, which I'd had some prior. I just referred them to the office, the NFL office, and then by Wednesday, it was completely out of hand. The media was at my house. I was getting phone calls, from the president, the CEO of the bank, emails, and it just went off the charts. Very unexpected.
All right, so you stuck with the call, but logistically, you can't change that. Once you made it, you made it. You're living with it, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so how bad was it for you?
Well, for me personally, this is what I always tell people. I'm a person of faith. I'm a former Marine. I'm an official. I'm also been in sales and marketing for 30 plus years. I heard the word no a few times. So I'm pretty thick-skinned and have a steel trap for a mind. And it didn't really affect me that much, even though people thought it might. The biggest thing is when Wednesday morning I hit my knees and said, hey, God, here I am.
Yeah.
It's a little bit overwhelming seeing your name all over TV and all this attention pointed at you. But I was more concerned with the people around me, my wife, my coworkers, the people that cared about me. And they were suffering from it because they were worried about how it was impacting me.
How did your wife handle it?
Like a trooper, really. She was very strong, but over time, once we got through a lot of it, it did affect her. She wanted, she was concerned about our safety, our privacy, which we've lost a lot of that. And regardless of what happened with the situation, we were still going to lose it.
Now, you made a comment. You said second-guessing a decision is almost as bad as hesitating or procrastinating beforehand. Explain that.
Well, if you've been trained to do something and you understand what you're doing, a lot of people today, especially in leadership, I look around, I see people putting, licking their finger, putting it in the air and feeling which way the wind's blowing and what the poles are. If you're a person of conviction and courage and you just need to make that decision and step forward instead of being frozen and second guessing, which I did. And if you're wrong, you can correct it. But at least that's a part of my whole, the deaf and the noise. If you look at the back of my book, you can tell the acronym that I came up with. In fact, I'm in a very noisy place right now. The noise is all around me. And it's all around everyone, not just me, but everybody.
So, did you have any supporters with your decision?
Oh, yeah. A lot of people that understand rules, and, of course, Seattle Seahawks fans, they think it was the best call that was ever made. But I'm going to speak up there in a couple weeks to a large congregation, and I'm going to ask them the question. They may hear this. I'm going to say, if I made the call the other way, would you still feel this way about me? And they probably would not, which isn't correct either. But the people that can break it down, look at it, and know the rules and understand the way that thing worked, and the people that understand that it's not the end of the world. We're talking about a game. We're not talking about life and death situations. Having that clarity of thought and understanding that, I get that from a lot of women, by the way. They just say to me, they say, what is all this about a game?
Yeah. How bad was the criticism? How severe was it?
It's severe still. Even today, I'm getting emails after I was on the TV this morning from angry people saying, go to your grave, being a liar and all this type of thing. It's death threats a couple weeks ago. So it's going to be there. There's nothing I can do about it.
And how has your faith helped you with this? Oh, okay. We were speaking via Skype to Lance Easley, and unfortunately our Skype dropped out, so we apologize for that. He is in New York on a speaking engagement, and he lives in the central coast of California. And of course, as you know, he is the referee that made that very controversial call during the Seattle Seahawks and the Green Bay Packers. And needless to say, it just turned the whole thing upside down. Of course, as he said earlier, Seahawk fans very happy about it. Green Bay fans were not. And according to the technicalities of the rule, apparently he made the right call, but that's not how a lot of people see it. And his faith has carried him through. So you may want to pick up his book, Lance Easley, and check out there at Barnes & Noble. Making the Call is called the book, and then Living with It. And I think you'll find it to be a fascinating read. All right, we'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, theDove.us.
Well, earlier I had the really a neat opportunity to talk to one of our colleagues in this industry, Ben Kinchlow. I don't know if you remember that name, but he was the original host of the 700 Club on CBN, and he still does some feature work here and there. You see him all over television. He's even been on some of the talk shows and even some of the network news programs. He's written books, and now he speaks around the country. So join me as we have really a fun and delightful conversation with Ben. Well, today's one of those unusual days where I get to welcome to Focus Today somebody that I had talked to over 20 years ago when he first started with CBN and co-host of the 700 Club, a gentleman that I highly respect, followed his ministry. He's a minister, a broadcaster, an author, a businessman, and very passionate about getting the gospel out around the world. And I'm talking about none other than Ben Kinchlow, and he's with us today from his home there in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Hi, Ben. How you doing, my friend?
Outstanding, Perry. Thank you very much for having me on the program today, man. It's a pleasure to be back with you after all these years.
Well, I tell you, a lot going on. Listen, your former colleague, Pat Robertson, he's made some interesting comments lately about some of the things going on in America as it also relates in a correlation to some of the citizens' unrest in Egypt. Do you think it's time to maybe mount up something like that in the United States?
Well, you know, I think one of the things that you have to be very careful is people oftentimes take things out of context. You have to put things in the proper context, and you also have to understand what he was talking about specifically. First of all, he was not advocating that we get out and do what, you know, the millions of people did in Egypt. In other words, he is not advocating a coup or a violent overthrow of the United States government.
No.
That must be clearly understood.
Right, and I'm sorry I didn't make that clear at the beginning, but go ahead.
Well, no, there's some, but a lot of the things that you've seen on the internet and a lot of the reports you've seen seem to be indicating that Pat was advocating a violent revolution, an overthrow of our established government procedures by mob rule, and that is not what he was advocating in the least. Now, what he was saying, and sometimes I think we forget this, but you will remember in this month, just a few days ago, we celebrated something called Independence Day.
Right.
The 4th of July. Now, what the 4th of July is all about was something called the American Revolution. This was the people of the colonies rising up against injustice, and after having pleaded with the monarch, found that the only way they could do it was through armed revolution, and they did. Fortunately, they put in place a system that will enable us to change our government completely without resorting to violence.
Right, right.
And that's the thing that I think we sometimes forget as American citizens.
Well, you know, Ben, we're all frustrated by what's happening, and especially recently with this administration and some of their actions. It appears, Ben, that we're moving towards some kind of a lawlessness in this country, and I know we're all frustrated. How do we do this? How do we stop the nonsense, in your opinion?
Well, you know, Perry, if you go back and remember, the whole purpose of history is to show us the right way and the wrong way. Or by that, I mean to show us one way as opposed to another way.
Right.
In America, we have established a system that says government of the people, for the people, by the people. In other words, the United States is a system founded on governing citizens, not governing tyrants. In other words, the power rests with the people, not with the government. When I say the power, that means the ability to change things rests with and in the hands of the general population, and it is not to be misconstrued as being a few people at the top ruling over the masses.
All right, so it appears, however, we are getting into some kind of the atmosphere of a tyrannical administration. They just seem to be doing what they want to do. They seem to be somewhat imperialistic in the rulings that they're doing, and to the point where they make a law and then they make an exception to the law. What are we citizens to do?
Well, you see, it's our fault. You remember the founding fathers put into the hands of the citizens something called the vote.
Right.
The people who serve are called public servants. That means that they are there to represent our positions, our views. Congress is established on the 2-4-6 rule. In other words, every 2 years, every 4 years, or every 6 years, depending on which office you hold, you have to come back and ask the American people for the privilege of going back and serving them again. And this works in the state, federal, and local government. The problem is we have turned away from this and put power in the hands of a few people, and we are letting them dictate to us how they think we ought to live. And it's our fault. If we don't like what they're doing, then every 2, 4, 6 years, vote them out, bring them back, and send somebody new in there.
Okay. And you probably, like me, Ben, have watched, unfortunately, the evangelical lack of voter registration, and those who are registered even didn't vote. I mean, if you add up the numbers of those who are eligible and those who were registered and didn't vote, we can sway any election in this country, but we don't seem to think that that's important anymore.
Well, the problem is we have been misinformed by our so-called Christian leadership. They have been telling us for decades that we are not supposed to be involved in politics. And so the average Christian, if you talk to the average Christian, he will tell you, well, that Christians shouldn't be involved in politics. It's dirty business. Nothing could be further from the truth. If anyone should be involved in putting truth to the forefront, it should be those people who are rooted and grounded in truth. You see, all of Western civilization, Perry, is founded on the Judeo-Christian principles articulated in the Bible.
Right.
And let me just point out something. A lot of people think the Bible is a religious book. The Bible is not a religious book. It's not about religion. And if you examine it dispassionately, what you'll find is that there are 7 references to religious or religion in the Bible. And of those 7 references, 6 of them are, shall we say, less than positive. In other words, there's only one positive reference to religion in the Bible. So even God doesn't establish religion. Religion is man's idea of how to please his concept of God. That's what religion is. What we are called upon to do is to live according to established precepts that provide liberty and justice for all. Remember what it says in the Declaration? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by the Creator with unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Boy, that's so beautifully said. So beautifully said. Do you think Christian leaders are beginning to sense now it's time to act?
I hope they are, but I'm afraid that unfortunately some of them, as my dad, who was a preacher, used to say, is, Ben, you don't want to be so heavenly minded, you're no earthly good. And I'm afraid that what has happened in a lot of cases that we are now teaching and focusing on getting to heaven instead of understanding that once you are born again, then your purpose here is to influence society. That's why he said, you are the salt of the earth. Salt influences. Salt makes a difference. And that's why he left us here as the salt of the earth to make a difference. And this is why the greatest country in the history of the world is the United States of America, founded on Judeo-Christian principles.
All right, let me ask you a question that I know is quite controversial, and I don't mean to be. I just want your perspective, and that is, President Obama has often said he's a Christian, but his policies and the fruit of his labor seem to be anything but Christian. What do you think?
Well, you know, I'm not the one that said this, so if anybody's got any argument with this, they might want to take it up with the original author of the statement, which said, "By their fruits you shall know them." Mm-hmm. End of story.
Okay.
You don't pick peaches off of an apple tree and vice versa.
Over the weekend, we watched the George Zimmerman trial come to completion, and he was acquitted. And it appears now that the portions of our culture are still trying to make this a race trial. Did you ever think it was a race trial?
I thought the media and a lot of the people who are associated with it tried to make it into a race issue. You know, and just in the length of time since the Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin saga began, mm-hmm. in Chicago, more than 400 young blacks have been murdered. And the overwhelming majority of these young blacks in Chicago were murdered by other blacks. Now, have you seen anything at all where a trial or any such thing that would even begin to approximate the Zimmerman-Martin case come to fore about, isn't this terrible, all these young black men being killed in Chicago?
No, nothing. In fact, we coined another phrase. We're calling it white Hispanic. I mean, what in the world are we saying here?
As long as you can put white in there, the people who profit by racial animosity are the people who will gain by this. Let me just point out something. There are people in this country, and I know there are some people who doubt this, but there are people in this country who really want to destroy America. They do not like the concept of the American system. They want to destroy it. And if you will remember correctly, one of the things that Abraham Lincoln said was, a country divided against itself cannot stand. If these people who have at their heart the radical transformation of America, the changing of America, the destruction of the America we now understand, have their way, they will change our country into something they have a vision for. And the way they're trying to do that is to set the various and sundry American citizen groups against each other.
Wow.
And so now, when I was a kid, we were all Americans, except blacks were discriminated against, but we changed that, and now here's what they're trying to do. Now they have Native Americans, African Americans, Chinese Americans, Italian Americans, and on and on and on, and now they have homosexual Americans, yada, yada, yada. In other words, where are the people that are one nation under God?
Wow. Ben, you're an inspiration. You haven't lost any of it. In fact, your fire's hotter than it's ever been.
Listen, man, I want to tell you something.
Yeah.
I've had the privilege of traveling to many foreign countries. I was in the Air Force for 13 years, and then after I got out to join the Black Revolution, Black Liberation Front, I got a chance to see some things, and then I met the Lord Jesus Christ, who transformed and changed my life. And since that time, I've also had a chance to go back and see a lot of different countries. And I want to say, without reservation, that this is the greatest country presently existing in the world. And I'll say this one last thing. If you go down and check the rosters of people trying to get into this country, the rosters go back for years. People are waiting years to get into America. I guarantee you there is no line, no waiting period for people who want to get out. If you don't like America, you can leave tomorrow.
Beautiful. You're an inspiration. I'd love to have you back more often. Thank you, my friend. And people that want to, do you have a website?
I do. It's called Ben Kinchlow, Kinchlow, benkinchlow.com. That's BenKinchlow.com.
Thank you, my friend. Many, many blessings on you. Keep up the good work. Stay in the fight, and let's talk again soon.
You do it too, Karen. Thanks for what you're doing, Perry. I appreciate it, man. We need more people and radio programs like yours. Thanks for having me.
All right, God bless you. Well, he's a fun guy and a lot of energy. Well, coming up, are the facts concerning the Second Amendment being manipulated? Well, according to Bill Frady, they are. And we're going to talk to him about that coming up in just a few moments.
Hi, I'm Daniel and I work at theDove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
Well, we're all concerned about the effort to control our access to guns and the ownership of guns and the use of guns in this country. And those of us who are certainly strong Second Amendment defenders are finding out that, boy, some of the statistics out there just doesn't add up. Well, Bill Frady's with us today, and perhaps you have heard him. He is the host of Lock and Load, presented by the Gun Owners Association of America, or the Gun Owners of America. And he's a strong Second Amendment supporter, and he's involved in this argument quite deeply. Bill, nice to have you with us today.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you having me on.
Well, listen, we're all watching these numbers and some of the statistics that are out there concerning the facts about the Second Amendment, and you claim that a lot of these numbers are just flat misused and manipulated. Help me to understand that a little better.
Well, there's one thing that has come to light recently is this 70-page pamphlet called Preventing Gun Violence Through Effective Messaging. And this was put together by 3 PR firms, and it was put together at the behest of the Mayors Against Illegal Guns. And primarily, if you look at my side of the argument, we can cite any one of 13 studies, and then we look at the studies versus the statistics, and the statistics bear out the studies. And then you look at what they come across when they're wanting to take a gun away or ban a whole class of firearms or restrict our ownership to them. And I've always wondered how they sound the same, like they would in Oregon. They sound the same in Oregon as they do in Boston. Mm-hmm. And it's because of this little 70-page pamphlet they put out where they advocate exploiting high-incident, high-media presence shootings, where they state that they're not going to wait on the facts to come out and make their case, where they're going to exploit everything in the emotional argument, and how does coordinate attacks against the NRA, which attacking the NRA is sort of like attacking the enemy, but they don't know that, or attacking one of their friends, actually. Mm-hmm. Their whole pitch on restricting law-abiding citizens from gun ownership is based upon falsehoods that play on emotion.
Right.
It's all a contrived production, like a really bad TV sitcom.
Well, you know, I have never seen a tragedy not capitalized on by those who want to control guns, even stretching them, as you well know. And of course, when they have the force of the media behind those tragedies to turn it into some kind of gun violence, and therefore more gun laws are needed, how in the world can we combat some of this stuff?
Well, I mean, it's all out there. All of the, I mean, I do a show about that kind of stuff 5 days a week. There's such a plethora of information out there. I don't know it all just because I'm incredibly smart or something. I go out and I find it. The media does help shape things. There was just right after this last attempt in the Senate with Manchin-Toomey, the Pew Research Center and the Bureau of Justice Statistics put out 2 studies that coincided that said gun violence and violence overall in the United States has gone down 49% in the last 20 years. Hmm. At the same time, another study came out that 56% of America thinks gun violence is on the rise.
Right. And
they are playing to that 56%. And they'll get out there, and their statistics are the same over and over again. 40% of all guns are bought without a background check. That's actually about 3%.
Tell us about the gun control playbook. What is its main message?
Main message is that you have to play on the people's emotion. Don't worry about things like, I'll give you an example. Right after Aurora, the Huffington Post published this schematic of what James Holmes was wearing, and it was republished and reused nationwide. And supposedly James Holmes had on a military IOTV, which they totally wrap around Kevlar ballistic system that, one, he couldn't legally own. Two, if you're going to buy one of those things, you better have a big bank account. And just all kinds of armor that you would never even catch a soldier wearing, because once you armor up with all that stuff, movement becomes a luxury. When in fact, James Holmes was wearing something called a Black Hawk Striker vest, which has the ballistic capability of stopping around about on par with whatever shirt you're wearing today. But they gave out this sinister look of a guy that went in there with all these weapons kitted up and virtually invulnerable to being shot by anybody by any method in a gun-free zone. And this is why he was so successful.
You know, I've had the privilege of being with Wayne LaPierre on several occasions, and quite the gentleman, and certainly passionate about his defense of the Second Amendment. And when these things happen, and even most recently, as you probably well know, Bill, especially as a result of this administration's aggression to restrict the Second Amendment, the NRA membership skyrockets. And
sure.
In fact,
ours has gone up.
And yours
has
has gone
up as well.
Yeah, and so doesn't that, how can that now mount into some kind of effective pushback?
Well, I mean, Manchin Toomey was a very effective pushback. A lot of constituents got on the phones with their senators, and with the exceptions of Manchin and Toomey, they decided to go along with their constituents, which is why they're there in the first place. But that's part of the pushback. Self-educating yourself. There's a segment of society out there that lives for Dancing with the Stars, and they don't care. They only care for what's packaged for them, not going out and learning something. I don't know how you reach them. That's the daunting task. But everything else, self-education is going to be the key. Making the politicians understand that they need to sort of get back to a constitutional form of government, that's going to be sort of a heavy lift.
It seems that that seems to be good discussion today, even among some of the conservative talk shows. The discussion of liberty and freedom, which includes the Second Amendment, finally is now the discussion of a lot of these talk shows. It appears to me we're finally waking up. Now, whether or not that results in some pushback here, I don't know, but it appears to me that discussion now is becoming more and more.
Well, here's the part about the little manual, okay? And this has a direct tie-in to freedom and liberty. If they are not basing their efforts on fact, if in fact, and we know this to be true, wherever they restrict guns, that becomes a criminal haven. That becomes like a sanctuary city for illegal. Crime proliferates, people die. If they're not basing it on fact, and it's all based on emotion, why on earth do they want to disarm us? What is the goal to disarm us? And my supposition is that they want to. The Violence Policy Center and the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence, they've been quite honest about it. The only way to advance the progressive agenda to its zenith, which would be, I guess, communism, would be to disarm us.
You know, of all the battles that we're facing in this country, Bill, I've always said, and I say this with tremendous caution and respect, but the one thing that could create an insurrection is a continuing push back of the Second Amendment in trying to take that away.
And that would be a big problem for them, because if you do the math and crunch the numbers, in fiscal year 2010 and 11, the American civilian bought more guns than the top 21 standing armies on the planet. And they're very badly outmanned. I mean, anything like that would occur here would be a guerrilla war, but you're facing a possible force the size of every gun owner in the United States. And I think, under Barack Obama, there's been 72 million NICS checks, which normally is initiated when you buy a gun.
Yeah.
So looking at those figures, I think there's between 120 million and 140 million actual gun owners in the U.S. today, probably 400 million guns.
Wow. Wow.
That's quite a daunting foe to be looking at.
No question about it. All right. Well, Bill, keep up the good work. People want to join the GOA. What do they do?
Go to gunowners.org. If you join it, Larry Pratt chokes every $20 bill till it's just a white rectangle of paper, and he gets a lot of bang for his buck. We've never made a deal with the government. We're never going to make a deal with the government. That is money well spent, and you are represented by somebody. Larry Pratt has three things that he has to focus on: his family, his God, and the Second Amendment.
All right. That's wonderful. Thanks, my friend. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
You guys stay safe.
You too. All right. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Something we've been talking about for quite some time, and that is your tax dollars in the state of Oregon paying for abortions. And I am really honored to have in the studio with us today two gentlemen who are the petitioners behind a measure to stop that. We have Lee Edwards with us and Jeff Jimmerson with us today. And Jeff and Lee, nice to have you guys.
Thank you.
What brings you to Southern Oregon? You're kind of like on a little training mission, recruiting mission. What are you guys doing down here?
We're looking to build the troops. Yeah, we have a big project ahead of us in terms of getting this on the ballot, the November 2014 ballot, and we just need more people involved. So that's what we're here for.
Okay, and sure, Brian's the contact, right?
Brian's our local Medford champion. Yeah, one of them anyway.
One of them. Well, Lee, start with you. Tell us about the petition. What is it?
Well, our goal is to give taxpayers in Oregon a right to vote on whether or not they want their tax dollars to fund abortion. So currently, all Oregonians are basically forced to fund abortion in the state of Oregon. And this happened back in the early to mid 80s, and that's kind of been the case up until this day. So we're trying to give the people an opportunity to vote on this.
All right, so not have your tax dollars go towards this. Jeff, how many abortions are happening in tax funded?
Well, about 4,000 a year, which is about 11 a day, which is almost half of all abortions in the state of Oregon.
Wow.
And a lot of people don't really know how the money flows and really how it works, and it's really pretty simple.
Yeah.
It's all through the Oregon Health Plan. So anyone on the Oregon Health Plan can have an unlimited number of free abortions, free at taxpayer expense. There's no limits and no restrictions on that. So
wow.
we know how the money's flowing. Our website, if I can mention it,
sure.
Oregon2014.org,
right.
Oregon2014.org. Lots of good information, a lot of facts that you can download, share with people, because people just really don't know this is happening.
11 a day. It's a staggering number, and if you stop and do the math on that, you can figure it out yourself. But that is just amazing. What's an abortion cost? What's the Oregon Health Plan paying for?
The average price kind of goes up and down per year, but it's in the low $400 range for the last fiscal year.
All right. So how's the response been, Lee?
Well, I think this year it's been really good. When we started, we actually tried this petition for the last election cycle in 2012, and we started with about 6 months until the signatures were due, and we were able to get about 70,000 signatures, which was short, obviously, of the goal, but was really impressive considering, we started with no contacts, we had no financial resources, we had nobody supporting us, no groups, no anything. And then so we were able to kind of build up about 2,500 people participated in gathering signatures, a little over 300 churches. And so we pulled all that all those established relationships into this setting now. And so we have 9 months away, we've already got over 10,000 signatures, plus we have this huge momentum kind of from the last cycle that we did. So I think it's been pretty positive, but again, it just depends on your perspective.
Well, the other thing, and Jeff, you can speak to this. This is totally legal, pastors and lay people, to do in your church. This is an initiative. You can do petition drives in your church, right?
Absolutely, yeah. There's something you can't do as a pastor, which is endorse a candidate, right? You can't say vote for John Smith, but you can say sign this petition and vote yes on it. That's perfectly legal, yeah.
Okay, and you need how many?
Well, our goal is 150,000 signatures.
Okay.
We need 116,284.
Yeah.
That's because we're trying a state constitutional amendment. So the bar is pretty high. But like Lee said, you know, we did 70,000 signatures last year in less time than we have this year with...
And using only volunteers.
Yeah. So we have a lot of confidence we can get it done.
Well, I believe you can with God's help and everybody getting involved, and this is really a no-brainer. How do people sign up to get trained and do all the things you guys want them to do? What's the deal?
Well, if you live here in the Medford area, we want you to come and join us tonight.
Okay,
so
where?
We're going to be at Medford First Baptist.
Okay.
And that's at 7 o'clock. It's going to be a fantastic meeting. We did it last night in Grants Pass. We had just great response. So tonight, 7 p.m., Medford First Baptist. If you can't make it to that meeting, just go to our website, Oregon2014.org. Lots of good information. You can download a single signer petition sheet to print and mail back to us.
Okay.
Or you can order petition sheets. We mail them out every Monday and Wednesday to volunteers all over the state. So just say how many you need, we'll get them in the mail to you.
All right, you have to be a registered voter?
Yes.
What else, some of the other qualifications? Primarily, that's it?
To sign?
Yeah.
Registered and active, which I understand active means...
They've done something to participate in voting in the last 4 years.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So if you haven't voted in the last 4 years, you need to re-register to vote.
Okay. So registered and active. And again, to take away the fears, there's nothing that should be a concern to a church doing this, right?
Absolutely not. Yeah, this is a moral issue, first of all,
Sure.
And which is why many churches, whether you're Catholic or evangelical or something else, this is something that we need to get behind. We need pastors to catch the vision, but more than that, we need people within the local church bodies to say, I will lead this in my church. And so we want to equip those individuals to be able to take this information to their pastors, get permission,
right,
and then organize volunteers to gather signatures after Sunday or Saturday services.
I would encourage, if you're listening and watching this today and you're kind of feeling the tug of the Lord to get involved, why don't you become the point person in your church? Go to your pastor and say, hey, look, Pastor, I'll take this on. I'll be there every Sunday. I'll collect the signatures. I'll take this on. If you'll just promote it from the pulpit and get the parishioners to sign. I mean, that's the easiest way to get it done and get thousands upon thousands. What does the actual petition say?
You want to take that, Lee?
Well, basically, there's the amendment itself, and this is a constitutional amendment that we're trying to pass. It says that no public funds shall be used to pay for any abortion. And then we kind of go through and define like what those different terms mean, like public funds and abortion. So there's an extended like page of text, but primarily what the amendment is just that simple.
All right, now you guys have been through the drill before. Did it make it to review legally, being constitutional?
Well, before they'll give you petition sheets to circulate. The process is kind of interesting. You turn in 1,000 signatures. And you get, once you turn in that 1,000, then they start paying attention to you. And so we did that, and then the Attorney General and the Secretary of State have conversations back and forth, and if it is constitutional, meaning we're dealing with one subject matter, that's really what they're looking for, then they approve the petition sheets. And so we've gone through that process.
So you've gone through that process. Is there any possibility of that being re-challenged at any level, as far as you know?
Well, you never know. I mean, someone could not like what we're doing and look for a technicality to file a lawsuit on, or you just don't know.
Right.
But you know, the amendment text that we've proposed, you know, we had it reviewed by multiple attorneys. We spent a long time writing that text, so we feel really good about it. And you know, we don't know what the future holds, but we're going to give it a shot.
Well, I just think, quite frankly, of all the things that are on the table this election cycle, this is the most important one. I realize you're going to get behind candidates, and that's certainly important too, and you need to be involved in that. But as a moral issue, as it shapes the state of Oregon, this is, to me, the paramount issue. And whether or not the church community gets behind this is going to be critical. And I think that I look back at some of the things we've done in the past, from the various petition drives that we've done. We know the numbers are there. We just flat know the numbers are there. If the churches participate in this argument, you guys have your 150,000. It's
Easy.
It's just simple as that. In
Yeah.
fact, I remember when we were doing the same sex one, wasn't it 500,000 that they got in a short amount of time statewide through the churches, so we could do this again.
Yeah.
And I would really hope that you would do this and be a carrier in your neighborhood, be a carrier to your church, to your friends and your family. But if you're locked in, you say they can do just one, huh?
Yeah, just one. You can print it, mail it back to us. You know, go to the website and click on, if they're in Jackson County, viewers, click on Jackson County and you can see exactly how many signatures we've received so far. So we're keeping the website up to date so we know.
Wow.
So those who are helping know where we're at. So Josephine County, Douglas County, we're at yesterday also. Yeah, we want to make information available to people, so check it out.
All right, and those of you listening and watching up and down the coast, whether you're in Curry County, Douglas County, of course you're in Josephine County, over in Klamath County, same thing goes. Go to Oregon 2014, that's Oregon2014.org. Check out your county, and I think you have a goal there for each county too. I forget what it is. Brian usually tells me what. You know what it is?
Just about 10,000 for Jackson County.
For Jackson County.
Yeah.
Whew. Okay, we can do it. We can do it. And well, when you look at the amount of registered voters, it's a piece of cake. We should get it done and nothing flat. And so let me encourage you again, if you're listening and watching along the coast, because the Dove is heard from Charleston all the way down to Crescent City now. So all you coastal folks, go to Oregon2014.org. You folks over in Klamath Falls, go to Oregon2014.org, and of course Jackson and Josephine County as well. And let's get this thing signed up. And again, we got about a minute and a half, guys, but help me and help our viewers and listeners get their head around 11 abortions a day being paid by their tax dollars.
Yeah, yeah.
It's actually almost half of the abortions in the state of Oregon every year are paid for by tax dollars, which is, it's interesting that over the last few years, last 5 years, there's been actually a decrease in the total number of abortions in the state of Oregon. But at the same time, there's been an increase in the number of tax-funded abortions.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So in one measure, we could save over 4,000 lives.
Yeah, you know, so this is a real critical point. This isn't a ban on abortion, so it's simply a stopping of the public funding of abortion. So people will still be able to choose whatever direction they want to go. But we do think that this will reduce the number of abortions in the state.
Yeah, and that's a critical point. This isn't a ban on all abortions, just to stop your dollars for paying for them. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a choice that we taxpayers should have, don't you?
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
That's probably why it got through the attorneys and the Attorney General and the Secretary of State, because it is a right, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Lee and Jeff, thanks, guys. And again, the website is Oregon2014.org. Check it out. And again, tonight, 7 o'clock, First Baptist Church. And what's going to happen there, quickly?
We're going to train, we're going to talk, we're going to pray. It's going to be really encouraging, and I know if you go there, you're going to walk away feeling inspired about this.
All right. And if you are the appointed person for your church, this is a must meeting. If you're going to be the person as the point person at your church handing out these petitions and seeing that there's a sign, check it out tonight at First Baptist Church. Lee and Jeff, thank you guys, okay?
Thank you very much.
Blessings on you. We'll see you next time on Focus Today.
Hi, I'm Jim and I work at theDove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.